Hello and welcome to the final part of Chapter 5. As we conclude this chapter, we're actually concluding the accounting cycle by doing some closing items. Basically closing the period and transferring net income. Now, in order to do this in our basically our test drive, we need to do some manipulation of the net income by adding a couple of entries. So, just a refresh of how to add these entries. First one is an invoice to Cool Cars. So we're going to click on invoice and find Cool Cars. Boom. And we're going to actually put the date to our previous year. So 2020. Okay? It's just how they want us to see how things actually happen. And we're going to put the product or service as concrete. And the rate is $1,739.95. Yay! Okay. Now we actually have to make another invoice. And this time this is going to go to Bill's Windsurf Shop. That's almost like saying that 3 times fast. And this one is actually dated for the current year. Okay. And we had maintenance and repair. There it is. And it rate was $200. Okay. Then we're just going to save and close, and we're going to remove those 2 items. Okay. Now, we're going to go and prepare our profit and loss report. So remember how to do one of those. We're going to go profit and loss. Click there. Boom. It's going to pop up. And they actually just want us to check the dates to make sure everything's okay. So 01/01/2020 to current run report. And we're verifying, but that's basically all we're doing. I like how they have drills that are very simple. So again, we're showing the profit and loss, and due to those 2 new transactions, we have a profit and loss of, or basically a net income of $3,582.41 for this 2-year period, or basically from last year to the current time zone. That's cool, that's awesome, yay for us. Next, they want us to verify the balance sheet. Okay, so we verified this. This is in accordance to your test drive in your book. Nice. Nothing new there. So let's go check out the balance sheet. Reports. And now the balance sheet, the one that has all of our assets and liabilities there. Okay. And we're checking out again. Change the date, run report. Okay. This little entry right here. Okay. So for this test drive in this drill, it is actually showing us that we have a negative $9,337.50 and the equity. That's fine. Retained earnings and net income. Those 2 together again shows us our current amount that we've actually earned, and it should actually equal out to, because it's 2 years, to what we had in our net income on a total. So that 3,582.41. So let's see. Yep, still balances out. We're good to go. Okay. So again, that was just simple going through the reports of profit and loss in the balance sheet. Now we're going to actually transfer the net income. So here comes the transfer of net income drill. Nice. Okay. So usually we do this. This is just closing out the income to the proper account. So we're going to go and create a journal entry. Here's our journal entry. Nice. So we will date this as of January 31st, 2021. And mostly what we're doing is that we're closing out the income to the correct actual capital. Now, since we've been closing out and reopening the test drive, basically to reset it, we don't have that capital account we created a couple of parts ago. Now, normally we would close out net income into that capital, but because of how QuickBooks automatically runs, it is right now closing it into retained earnings. So we're basically making sure that's going into the proper equity account. So in your Beach Barkers, you'll probably put it right into your capital. That's fine. Here, since we don't have it, we're doing into opening balance equity. So again, since retained earnings naturally increases with a credit, we have to move the amount out of that account, basically bring it down to zero. So we're going to put a debit there of that total net income for the 2 years at $3,582.41. And we're just going to put transfer net income and retained earnings. Okay? Because you can't really basically transfer anything out of net income that shows up on the balance sheet. It's all going into retained earnings. So that's the account that we can affect. That net income account is basically just something QuickBooks likes to show you the net income. But retained earnings is our big one. So we're going to put our equity account as the credit. Again, if somehow we have a net loss, this will actually be the opposite. Again, you have to zero it out. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and hit save and close because we now transfer all of our net income into the proper equity account. Close. And it shall refresh. Okay. So we're going to have to move it. So we're probably going to have to move it a little bit. But we did move the amounts. These two are actually zeroing themselves out, which is fine. Again, that's really all that's going on here. Notice that they are zeroing each other out. Even if I move the date, notice that. So we would probably have to move it to 01/01/2022. And there it goes. So we had to go a little bit more. That's fine. But it does show out that it has zeroed out. Okay. That's what we really wanted to do. It means it transferred everything over. just had to wait till QuickBooks actually closed that income into retained earnings. That's fine. Now, it's time for us to do the closing of the books. So, rather than actually recording the closing entries like you may have learned in your Introduction to Accounting or Principles of Financial Accounting in 2301, QuickBooks Online uses a closing date to indicate the end of the period. And once this date is assigned, income and expenses are effectively closed. Okay? If a transaction involving income or expenses recorded after the closing date is considered a part of the new period, it will not be used in calculation of net income or loss. So, basically, we don't have to actually make the closing entries that we know and love from those prior classes. All we can do is set our date. So how do we set our closing date in QuickBooks? Okay, so how we do this is we gotta go to Account and Settings. So clicking on your gear right here where it should show your kind of name right there, hit Account and Settings. And here it pops up. Okay. So we want to go to our Advanced tab. Advanced. And then here we're going to click the pin icon under Accounting. Whee! Okay. And notice this. It's a little bit different. But we want to select this. Okay. It's not a checkbox anymore. I know your book is actually showing a picture that's a checkbox. It's just a little switch. So we need to click on the switch. Click on the switch. Click on the switch. And then we're going to put in the closing date. And since we're going to close everything on January 31st, that is going to be our closing date. Okay. And of course, we want to keep allowing changes after viewing a warning. Now, if we want to get even more security intel, we would have to enter a password. That's just in case we really don't want anybody to put anything in. It's just a security measure. So we're going to hit save. Notice now it says close the books on that date and hit done. Nice. Okay, so it officially closes the books on January 31st, 2021. And you can double check to make sure it does say that. Okay, nothing too bad there. Now we need to edit the closing period transaction. Okay, so even though the month of January has been closed, transactions still may appear in the account registers, the journal, and so on. So, we have determined that there has been an error that's made in the previous period. And QuickBooks Online does allow a correction to be made. In order to save and edit transaction, we must basically click yes on the warning screen that ends up popping up. So we're going to show that warning screen by fixing an invoice. We're going to fix invoice 1039 to Bill's Windsurf Shop. And we're going to change the quantity to 2. Okay, so easy way to do this. We'll hit new. I'm going to click invoice. Since that was a recent one, notice this little previous clock. We're going to click there to find our recent invoices. And there's Bill's Windsurf. Okay, here it is. And we were supposed to change the quantity to 2. So he was actually supposed to be invoiced $400. Okay. So we're going to hit save and close. And notice now we have this warning. Okay. And it says double check transaction date. Transaction was on or before your closing date. Edit transaction will affect your books. Are you sure you want to save? We want to click yes, because it actually truly an edit. So there's our yes. It has now been saved. Okay, and of course it will update itself. And notice now the net income is different than our retained earnings. It's off by $200. So it actually wants us to search. Okay, so we're going to click the modifying glass, and of course we're going to go to our journal entry. Like I just said, that we've added an extra 200. Thus, since we were closing out and transferring net income, this journal entry has to be changed to be updated with the brand new information. So instead of 3,582.41, we now have 3,782.41. Okay. Now, if we actually decreased the invoice amount, we would actually have to decrease net income or decrease these amounts. But since we increased the amount that we were going to get, all of this gets increased. Nice. So we're going to hit save and close. And again, we're going to hit yes, because we have to make those adjustments. And then in our balance sheet, now we can see that they are the same, and thus will be closed out at the end of the year. Okay. And that actually concludes this drill of transferring net income. That was interesting in itself. And that is Chapter 5. Okay, that's all of our drills for Chapter 5 to complete this chapter. Nice. So that would mean you are over halfway done with this course, as we're going to enter into Chapter 6, and we're going to mess with sales and receivables and look into sales tax and discounts. That looks like it's going to be fun. Chapter 6 is a big old bulk one. Anyway, this has been your professor signing off.